They called it unsinkable, but within days, over 1,500 lives were lost. Families shattered, heroes born, moments frozen forever. These are the faces of Titanic, and the stories you'll never forget. April 10th, 1912. The Titanic departs Southampton. A ship of dreams, bound for New York, unaware that within days, it would become a legend written in ice and sorrow. Morning of April 10th, 1912, Captain Edward John Smith stands at the bridge of the Titanic. Calm and focused, the ship would leave Southampton within hours. Southampton, April 10th, 1912. Titanic pulls away from Pier 44, slow, massive, full of hope. For many on board, it was the start of a new life. For others, it would be the end. On the A-deck's aft promenade of the Titanic, 6-year-old Robert Douglas Speedon spins a toy top while his father Frederick watches nearby. It was April 1912. Just a quiet moment between a father and son before history changed course. Titanic's bow, seen from the starboard side. In April 1912, it was the largest moving object on Earth, powerful, still, and soon to be lost beneath the sea. April 11th, 1912. Inside Titanic's gym, instructor Macaulay shows the rowing machine. Beside him, William Parr tests the gear, a quiet moment just days before the tragedy. May 31st, 1911, Bruce Ismay and William Peary inspect the nearly finished Titanic. For them, it was pride and progress, not yet tragedy. Queenstown, Ireland, officers Charles Lightoller and William Murdoch stand by the gangway before departure. This is the last known photo of Murdoch or any Titanic officer on duty. Netherton, England, 1910. Workers forged the anchor chain for the Titanic. Each heavy link built by hand, unaware of the fate that lay ahead. Forward A-deck of the Titanic. That's young Jack Odell on the right. His family took this photo before they left the ship in Cove. They would never sail again. The only known photo of Titanic's Marconi radio room. That's Harold Bride in the back, one of the 2 wireless operators who stayed at their post until the very end. Victor Peñasco was just 24, on honeymoon with his young bride when he boarded the Titanic. He never made it home. She survived. He did not. Frank Goldsmith stand with his wife Emily and their 2 sons, Frankie and baby Birdie. Only Emily and little Frankie would survive the Titanic. Frank Sr. never made it. Birdie had already died the year before. An electric bath, part of Titanic's luxury Turkish suite on F deck. Electrotherapy was a health trend in 1912, promising energy and vitality to wealthy passengers. April 19th, 1912. Stuart Collett stands, one of the Titanic's survivors. Just days earlier, he'd escaped the freezing Atlantic and the worst night of his life. Louis and Lola, they were called, but their real names were Michelle and Edmund Navratil, just 4 and 2 years old. Their father used false names to bring them aboard the Titanic. He didn't survive, but they did. Frederick Fleet was 24. A sailor and lookout on the Titanic, he was the first to spot the iceberg. His warning came too late. Rhoda Mary Abbott was in 3rd class. She's remembered as the only woman to go down with the Titanic and survive, a quiet symbol of courage few ever knew. few dogs sailed aboard the Titanic. The Great Dane in the back is likely Anne Elizabeth Isham's. She refused to leave without it, and neither of them survived. 10 men from the Titanic's deck crew. They survived that freezing night in April 1912, but they carried the memory for the rest of their lives. On the Titanic's bridge, a crewman pulls the master lever, sealing watertight doors throughout the ship. It was a safety feature meant to contain flooding should disaster strike. In New York, rescued crew from the Titanic are given dry clothes. It's a small kindness after surviving the cold Atlantic, some in nothing but soaked uniforms. At St. Vincent's Hospital in New York, Titanic survivors begin to recover. Waiter Thomas Whiteley lies with a broken leg and burns. Beside him, fireman John Thompson, his arm in a sling. Olga Lundin survived the sinking of the Titanic. She's seen here with her cousin Jenny, both carrying a quiet strength that history nearly forgot. Collapsible lifeboat A, found a full month after the sinking. Drifting 200 miles from the wreck, with 3 bodies still inside, a quiet echo of all that was lost. Michel Navratil, seen here before 1912, was the father of the 2 boys later known as the Titanic orphans. He placed them in a lifeboat, kissed them goodbye, and stayed behind. Mrs. Snyder survived the sinking of the Titanic. Like many that night, she left everything behind except her life. The surviving officers of the Titanic, photographed during the British Inquiry, May 1912. They made it through the night, but would carry the weight of it for the rest of their lives. Daniel Buckley was a steerage passenger on the Titanic. He survived the sinking in April 1912, but died just 6 years later in the war. They stood and waited, unsure who had lived or who was lost. As the Carpathia neared, hope and heartbreak hung in the air. Life belts worn by Titanic survivors, now resting in the hold of the Carpathia, silent evidence of a night few would ever forget. Sometime after the sinking of the Titanic, the Kink family posed for this photograph. At right is Anton Kink, a third-class passenger, with his wife Louise on the left, and their daughter Louise Gretchen in the middle. After the sinking, ships recovered over 300 bodies from the Atlantic. 150 were brought to Halifax, where many still rest today. A group of Titanic survivors sit quietly aboard the Carpathia. The rescue is over, but the weight of what they've lived through has only just begun. Harold Bride, Titanic's junior wireless operator, is carried ashore, his feet bandaged from frostbite. He stayed at his post until the very end, sending the final calls for help. Charlotte Collier and her daughter Marjorie survived the sinking of the Titanic. This photo was taken not long after their rescue. Eva and Esther Hart survived the Titanic. Their father Benjamin did not. He put them in a lifeboat and was never seen again. The recovery ship Minia, photographed during its grim task. Not a lifeboat, but one of the vessels sent days later to find the dead. Here, a crewman lifts a lost soul from the Atlantic. This was the last lifeboat successfully launched from the Titanic. Photographed from the Carpathia, it carried survivors through the freezing dark. For those aboard, it was the final chance to live. A quiet view of Titanic's portside boat deck, just outside the second-class promenade. In April 1912, passengers would have walked here, unaware of how close they were to history. This may be Lifeboat 12 from the Titanic, seen here aboard the Carpathia, hoisted up to drain the seawater, a silent moment after a night of chaos.